Hello again, this is part 2 of including animate.css in your Ionic 3 app. Please refer to part 1 if you haven't seen that yet, as this is a continuation from that. You can see our animation is working fine here, that's where we left off last time. And the way we achieved that was to include a link to a style sheet in a directory which we had manually created under this folder called assets in our source directory. Now this animate.min.css was copied from the node modules directory which got installed when we did the npm install of animate min, and it works fine, no problems there. And if you remember, we also tried to directly access the node modules version of animate.min.css here, and that didn't work. I'm going to attempt quickly to explain why that didn't work. Now in the directory, apart from the source directory you have here, if I close that down, you'll see there's another directory which we hardly ever refer to called www. Now this is the directory where your Ionic app actually runs from. And if we open that up, you'll see that there's no reference at all to node modules under here. Whereas you can see here, here's all the node modules under the source directory, and there's quite a few of them, as you can see. So there's no if you like, node modules under the www one. So when we had the link here to the node modules directory, it wasn't there. That's why that didn't work, if you can understand what I'm saying. The assets directory is, if you look under www, we've got an assets directory with a CSS similar to what we've got in the source here. There, the source. And under the CSS we have animate.min.css. So that's why this link works here. Because what happens if we go back to the command window, these are all the steps that take place, and all of these steps are like, if you like, building the www directory to actually run your app. So your app doesn't run from the source directory at all. Now, we have to go through a little bit of a convoluted way of including this in here, because we copied animate.min.css from the node modules directory, which, you know, it works, and I suppose you wouldn't have to do that thing too often, but it's a bit of a convoluted way, as I said. So let's think of a better way of doing this. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to delete the CSS directory folder here in the source, move to recycle bin. It's gone. So this doesn't work now. If I follow that link, as I've done before, turns blue, click it, and I get unable to open it because it's not there, okay? It's gone. And I just want to remove it. Oh, in fact, it's already gone from the assets when I deleted it, fair enough. We still need this link in our index.html, even though the physical directory for CSS is gone. That makes, I know that seems quite strange, but we do. So how do we go about then including this animate.min.css? Let me show you. If I go back now to the data structure, or the file structure of the app, if I go down into node modules and I go into Ionic and I go into app scripts and I go into config, now there's various scripts here which get run, or at least some of them get run, when we're doing the build process here. Okay. Now the one we're interested in for this case is called copy.config. So let's just have a look at that, just to see what it looks like. And there it is. what it's basically doing is it's copying stuff from your source directory, where you're doing all your development, into the destination directory, which, as you can see, is www in most cases. There's also a build directory as well. And this is the reason why when we use the CSS directory under assets, it worked, because this line here, if you like, is copying all of the subdirectories under assets. One of them included the new CSS directory we added, and it's copying them to the destination directory, which was under www. So if we go back to our code, it's copying all of these. So it's copying icon, images, and also the CSS when we had it there. It's copying all those over from the source directory over to the www directory. There's obviously a fonts one, which is obviously copied from somewhere else, but these three here are copied over in the build process. Now let's go back again to the config file. So you've seen what that looks like. So what we need to do, we need to, if you like, take a copy of this file and add an additional line in to copy our CSS over. Let me see if it's probably best if I just show you rather than try to explain it. So let's go and look at, first of all, package.json. We need to make a change to package.json to tell our Ionic that we've got our own build file. So if you come down package.json, you have all the dependencies here, dev dependencies, description. There's another section we need to add here. So we need to add a section called config. You can call it anything here, and it needs to point to a directory in your source, in your file system, which has got that file that I just showed you. Let me show you in detail. So I've got a scripts directory here, and I've got a file here, copy.config. So this is a direct copy of what I just showed you, but it's something that we're going to use, if you like, to override the default one. Now we need to add lines for the CSS. Here's one I prepared earlier. So we'll go to this one, we'll rename it. So it's called copy.config.js, and I've added these 4 lines here. Again, you can use any word there, it just makes sense to use copy animate CSS. And we're saying, right, copy from, and here's the interesting bit now, look, see? So we did the npm install of animate.min.css, and now we're copying the file directly from that node modules folder. We're not faffing about with moving this animate.min.css anywhere else. We're copying it directly from where npm install put it. And we're saying we want the destination to be assets.css. So we're saying we want to copy that file over to the www directory and put it there. So because I've just put that live now, it should probably have done it. So it hasn't done it yet. Okay, we'll have to do a rebuild, I think, for that. Let me come here, copy out of there. Let's just do a restart of there. Go back into our code. Now you can see, because of the rebuild, it's created now the CSS, animate.min.css. That's been created because we've added these 4 lines into this copy.config.js under the scripts directory. But again, that's only worked because we've included this extra bit of code in the package.json file to say we're overriding your own copy config file and this is where ours is. So I hope that sort of makes sense. And that should mean now if we go into the Lotto and we click it and do roll them, it's still working okay. And now we're using, if you like, the animate.css directly from our node modules directory. We just needed to change various things in here to get it to work, so that's good. Now there's one more thing which we could do to make it even better. Let me just show you that briefly. So again, I'll delete this and I'll rename this one I made earlier. So this is basically the same, apart from we're now copying the existing config from the Ionic app scripts config directory. And that's good practice because, say, if Ionic changes or you get an update to Ionic, obviously they could change this file themselves because it's part of Ionic itself. So we're making sure that we're getting the up-to-date copy script into our overriding script. And then we're still including these 4 lines at the end. This is an interesting bit of code there, which I learned new. So basically, if you say object.assign and you give a name existing config, which is here, it's basically like appending, if you like, this bit to the existing copy config, which is a really neat way of doing it. So I hope you can see that that is a better way because we're using a require statement to include that into our application. And again, just to prove that that's still working, and there we go, there we go, there we go. So I hope that's been useful. I know I've gone on a little bit, and it's quite, when I first found about that copy config and that, I thought, well, that's quite, a strange way of doing things. But when you realise how Ionic works, and you can include things in there. You could include various other things in there. You can include other like image directories or scripts or whatever in that kind of fashion. So it's good practice and a good way of knowing how to do that. So I hope this video has been useful to you, and I hope to follow it with a few other Ionic code snippets in the future. Thanks for watching.